sit-down clinic. Grab a coffee if you're in Australia, grab a cold drink if you're in the US on your Friday evening. My name's Coach Ollie. I'm the Player and Coach Development Director at Ivanhoe Knights, and like I said, I'm excited to bring this group together. Got some good speakers and got lots of rising coach members as well on this call, which is awesome, and I really appreciate their support. Guys like Josh and Paul and Lucas that I've sort of met through the network, so it's awesome to have them here as well. And just a huge thanks to Brandon Rosenthal. I know he's not going to be on the call today, but he helped us out with setting up a lot of this sort of stuff and getting it off the ground. And so I really appreciate his effort too. Just a quick background for everybody. The East Coast of Australia now is in a pretty strong second wave, I guess you would call it, of COVID, unfortunately. And, for that reason, a lot of talking to some coaches in my network here in Australia, it seemed that they were pretty downbeat about potentially losing their season. And I just thought we'd sort of try to do something to cheer everybody up and get us all together as a group here, which is awesome. So I really appreciate it. I'm astounded by the response. I'm humbled at the attendance today, which is awesome. Just a couple of quick notes. Please make sure you're on mute unless you're sort of asking a question, just to help everybody out and reduce the background noise. Use the raise hand function or stick your questions in the chat. We'll try to get to them as we go through each coach. We are recording, so we'll try and share it with the group. So those that miss any of it, that's fine. And we've got really no time limit, but we don't want to keep our coaches too late on a Friday night. And please, you don't have to have your camera on. I know it's the morning in Australia and life's a little hectic with lockdown. So please, you don't have to have your camera on. If you're not ready to go, you can watch this in your pajamas. We're good with that here. I'll stop talking too much and I'll get our first speaker on and Coach Mitch Vanya. I hope I haven't messed up that surname. Former assistant at Stephen F. Austin University in Texas. I didn't know a lot about Stephen F. Austin, but most hoop junkies will remember their famous overtime win against Duke, 2019, big overtime win on the road. Prior to that, he's worked in the video room and as a special assistant for the Houston Rockets. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Man, it's awesome. So, look, Coach, I just wanted to get started and just have a look about, I guess, getting into that video room at Houston and what that kind of looks like. Obviously, you're a GA at Texas A&M before that, and how did you come to be involved in an NBA team?
Yeah, so try to not get too long-winded with it, but I started off. I tell people I ran out of talent pretty early on. I played Division III basketball here in the States for a couple of years, and then went to Texas A&M, transferred to A&M, and started off there really in the video room. Became a manager and then grad assistant there. And when I was I tried to do any and everything that I could do while I was there. Just wore as many hats as possible. So I knew that if I wanted to be or have a chance in this business, I needed to try to learn as much as I could. And so I was the assistant video coordinator there. I gave myself that self-title, but that's basically what I was as a GA. Along with, it's fortunate here in the U.S. in college, as a GA, you can do all of the stuff. You can be on the floor, you can do video, you can do all of it, right? So I started off in the video room, and as you probably know, as most of you know, it's all about who you know in this business. It's like 90% who you know and 10% luck. So when I got to Houston, it was through somebody I knew, and started off in their video room and was an intern there for a couple of seasons. And from there, after the second season, I got a call to go to Texas A&M. I went back to Texas A&M for one season as a video coordinator, and then the Rockets called me back and was their head video coordinator, and then worked myself to behind the bench assistant for them and kind of their lead scout on the defensive side. So from there, went to Stephen F. Austin for the last couple of years, and now I am currently a free agent again. So it's kind of the nature of this beast in this business, as some of you may know. The video room in Houston was a great experience. When I got there, I got to learn from Kevin McHale, was the first coach that was there when I was there. And some of the assistants on that staff, it's crazy. One of them, JB Bickerstaff, who's now the head coach for Cleveland, and Chris Finch, who's now the head coach for Minnesota. So that just the minds in that room, and then Kelvin Sampson, who's the head coach at University of Houston. So the minds in that room with a Hall of Famer coach with Kevin McHale, I was able to learn basketball at a level that I've never been able to learn before. And it's crazy those first couple of years, and every year really you reflect on it and you can see how much you truly learn each season. And in the video room, like I said, I ran out of talent at an early age. Wish I could play at a higher level than I got to, but being able to really learn the game through film and being in film sessions and listening to coaches talk, listening to the players talk was tremendous. And then when I got to be the head video coordinator at A&M, I was very green. I didn't know what I was doing. But coaches helped me out there as well. Went back to the Rockets, like I said. And then there was a coaching change. That's when Mike D'Antoni came through. And with Mike, one of the greatest offensive minds of all time, in my opinion. And we had a great just offensive philosophy. And, obviously Chris Paul, James Harden helped that. Great, phenomenal players, Hall of Fame players. And then, James, obviously a lot of people, he has a lot of ISO in him, no question. So it kind of takes out, the prettiness or the fluidity of the game at times. But when he actually ran offense in Mike's system, it was a beautiful thing to watch with him and Chris. I really got spoiled with them watching it day in and day out. Just getting to, like I said, getting to learn from Hall of Fame staffs, Hall of Fame players, it was tremendous. The video side of it, I can't stress the importance of that. If you have opportunities to learn through video and teach through video. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, it's interesting. We were talking the other day about video and I think it's something here in Australia, especially at the lower levels, that's starting to come in a lot more. I think the access to video, obviously via our phones and that type of stuff, we can set those things up on tripods, and you don't really need to have an elite video room to be able to get some visuals for your players. But, and I think this generation of players are very much more skewed to being visual learners. I just think that's the environment they're growing up in now. With Instagram and Snapchat, they're kind of used to having things shown to them through their phones rather than bits of paper and playbooks, definitely. So, mate, when you're saying before, you're a special assistant, you're on the defensive side, you're in the video room. How does that look like in a build-up during the week, say, or build up to a game? With the Houston Rockets, what's your sort of role and what are you sort of looking for?
Yeah, so I mentioned it a second ago. So when I got to that role, in my last couple of years in Houston, it was a lot of prep work through video. So I was essentially became the lead scout for us. We didn't have there's a position in the NBA called the advanced scout. Houston Rockets did away with that position while I was the video coordinator. And so I had to basically become the resident expert on all the opponent play calls and actions. And a lot of that was through the video side of things. So when I got promoted to be behind the bench and the special assistant, and I say lead scout. So Jeff Bizdelic, Roy Rogers, Matt Brazzi were some of the coaches that were there on the defensive side. And what we would do is I would watch 4 or 5 games out going into whoever the opponent was, and put together a master edit. And what we would do as a staff, we would meet and then determine which calls or which sets to show. And it had to be dumbed down very much, right? So in 5 games, you can get a lot of clips through an NBA game, right? So you take out all the nonsense and truly get to the nuts and bolts of it. And you look for particular actions that they may run a ton of, or particular actions that you think that they could hurt us with. One team in particular, Golden State, because they were our arch nemesis, right? Could never beat Golden State. So one thing that they did, just other than just flying around and making tons of threes, one thing that they really did well was post splits, right? So they throw the ball into the post and they would cut off of that and set screens for each other guard to guard and create a lot of confusion. We were a switching defense, so they would slip a lot and just try to create confusion where we'd mess up the switch. We had some rules with that, and that's how they were able to manufacture a lot of threes against us. So when that wasn't a particular set or a play call, right? But that was a particular action that we would practice against, and we show and film, pull those types of clips as well. So getting, all that preps out, we do the 5-out, get the actions, play calls, we do personnel side of things. A lot of times what we would do is try to incorporate personnel within the actions of the clips, right? So if it's a Steph Curry and Klay Thompson post split and Draymond Green is in the post, right? We're not gonna double team in the post. We're gonna stay home and we're gonna switch on contact with those two guards, two elite shooters. And you may show a clip of that where, and as the season progresses, you'll have more clips of yourself, obviously, against the team. And you may show a mistake where you had against them, and then you may show a clip where you guarded it correctly. So yeah, personnel, actions, and I was also the person in charge of drawing up all the plays in diagrams. We didn't necessarily give that to the players, but that was more for coaching staff to be able to study, go through, and know what they were running. And then during the game days, so on games, I sat right behind Mike D'Antoni and Jeff Bzdelik. Bzdelik was our associate head coach, and he was in charge of the defense. So my job during the game was to either watch opponent point guard or the head coach, see whatever action they're going to call. That could be a verbal, that could be a visual, and NBA game it's happening fast, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as I see it, I had to alert Jeff of the play call and the action, and he would alert whoever on the floor. Obviously, in the NBA, the actions are a little bit simpler because of the shot clock, right? Whereas in college, the ball can get reversed side to side maybe a couple of times before you actually get to the main action. Yeah. So in the NBA, it may be just a quick pin down or a quick cross screen for a post up. And you would alert whatever player was in that action. Hey, Trevor Ariza, there's a pin down coming your way, just to alert them of that type of action. So that was kind of the main focus I had the last couple of years there in Houston. And that all started with my experience through the video room. So it just kind of built more and more each year.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and it's interesting, like you said, you're looking for that action all the time. You're trying to pick up the communication side of things, and obviously relaying that in a stadium. Obviously, they haven't been full of fans recently, but obviously with a lot of noise, a lot of background noise, and that type of stuff going on as well. Are you picking up on stuff that they're doing out of timeouts? You reminding guys when they go onto the floor, or how does that sort of work from a timeout perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. Special situations, right? During the regular season, you would kind of pick up on some of that stuff, and we would focus on it a little bit, right? Tendencies that they would have coming out of a timeout. A lot of times, especially in the NBA, it's very matchup driven. So you would focus on that in particular. Now, as you get into the playoffs, obviously you study a team and break them down tremendously, and you'll literally know every single baseline out of bounds, every single side out of bounds, every end of game situation. And so, in a sense, it's kind of a guessing game coming out of timeouts. But oftentimes you have general concepts that they may get to, especially end of game stuff. So going back to the playoff prep, you go through an 82 game season, and there may be 15 to 20 games where a team may have a close game where they run something at the end of the game. And oftentimes, they'll have 3 or 4 kind of main plays that they maybe have run 3 or 4 times, and then they'll have a few one-offs. But we focus more on the 3 or 4 times that, the plays that they ran multiple times. And so Jeff Bzdelik, like I said earlier, he would have a card, the diagram, full sheet diagram made up, and about 4 or 5 of those in his binder. And we would talk about it in a timeout, if it's a close game situation. Hey, be aware, they love to run flare screens here, or they love to run, a side ball screen here, or whatever. And you kind of alert the guys to that. And I've noticed, like I said, it's kind of a guessing game. Sometimes we would hit it on the nail, and sometimes, we'd swing and a miss. But, hopefully in the playoff prep, you've also guarded it at some point in practice leading up to that. So, it's crazy. Playoffs is a whole nother level, as you could imagine. And it's just by, you in a 6-7 game series, the team inside it out. And I used Golden State earlier because we played them every single year in the playoffs. And, I know them like the back of my hand. So it's crazy.
You start to know, yeah. And I know that feeling as a coach myself doing scouts. You start to feel like you know them better than you know yourself after a while. That's for sure. So we always talk about people always talk about limited practice time at the NBA level. Are you on floor kind of looking at that, and how is that done? Is that done like 5-on-5? Is that done a lot sort of 5-on-0, or how do you sort of defend that sort of stuff or learn the breakdowns?
Yeah, oftentimes NBA. So once the games get going, you get out of training camp and your main practices at the beginning of the season. Once you start to go through the regular season, your practice time goes way down, like you just said. So oftentimes, kind of our structure in Houston, and it is different from team to team. We had a veteran team, so we had a lot of flexibility and freedom to teach and talk more so than actually going 100 miles an hour full speed through stuff. So what we would do on most practice days is we would watch film from either the previous game or the upcoming game to teach a little bit, and then we go to the floor and we may go through 3 or 4 plays of the opponent, and it's more of a walkthrough than anything. You may go. Sometimes what we would do is myself, some other coaches, player development coaches, we may be on the floor in a 3-on-3, 4-on-4, sometimes maybe a 5-on-5 situation. And we go, our 75% full speed is like 10% for those guys. And, so we can give them somewhat of a look to try to create, like I said, the post splits a second ago, try to give them some type of, look at it, if you will. But it's a lot of walkthrough, a lot of just more teaching than anything. And then you do some things offensively where you can attack a certain team, what you want to look for. 3 or 4 things, and then after that, guys would get their shots up, and that would be a wrap. It was very simple, very simple. We would be in there tops maybe an hour, and that's after the guys would get their shots up. So as the season progresses, and again, it's different from team to team. We had a very veteran team, and those guys, 8, 10, 12 years in the league, they know more basketball than any of us, combined do, because they lived it for 8 to 12 years. So it's another level. Now, as getting to the playoffs, we would get our G League guys, our lower level guys, have more of a roster to give guys a certain look. And you would have 2 or 3 days, hopefully, it depends on when your first game is, but you have 2 or 3 days to go 5-on-5 full court to really give those guys a look. The only other times during the season you would have like full on practice is, say you have a back-to-back, day off, and another day off, like 2 days in between games. You may come in and get a sweat in just to get your legs back under you. And we tops again, we go 45 minutes, maybe an hour. And those days are not as common in the league. Those are more rare, but you would get something in, and you would try to put something in, maybe cover during those times.
I'll just switch into a little bit more sort of tactical side of things from that point of view when you're looking at your scout, and I guess something that's a bit more relatable here for our coaches as well. So, from a Houston perspective, when you were there, an on-ball screen, say a side, a wing on-ball screen, how did you guys sort of look to defend that? What were the sort of different looks you gave teams defensively on that sort of side? And I know you've got there'll be a lot. I know we defend ball screens 3 different ways at RMIT, so I understand that too. But what sort of, how would you sort of make that look? What's the look for that for you guys?
So so the year we lost to Golden State in the Western Conference Finals, and people they discredit D'Antoni and they discredit James Harden defensively, right? But what people don't understand is we were the 6th best defense in the league that year. So we had a tremendous defense.
Yeah.
And now it helps to have PJ Tucker and Clint Capella and Trevor Ariza and those guys.
Definitely.
You put those guys around James and it helps them, right? But we did have multiple coverages, but our main defense those years, we switched 1 through 5 mostly. That's because PJ could guard 1 through 5. Clint was really good on the perimeter. And the way the game is being played, we knew that you would take away threes, force them to the rim, right? And because most teams don't really take the mid-range anymore. We got to see a little bit of that resurgence this year in the playoffs, especially with Milwaukee and Phoenix, in the finals. a little bit more resurgence to that mid range. But in Houston, we switched everything. We had some rules with that, and say it was like you said, a side ball screen, a 2-5 ball screen. 5 man's coming to set it on the side, and James was in it, Clint was in it. That's an automatic switch. Now, kind of some rules with that is if there was no contact, or if you were told to switch, communication had to be top notch, right? So the big would read the guard defender, right? If he was able to get up and hit him and get over the screen, like, you stay with your own. But if there's any type of contact made or you're told to switch, it's an automatic switch. And as a team, we were very physical with it. We would switch up and into guys.
I was just going to say to you guys, because there's different, I think, we think switching sometimes it's a passive defensive mechanism to when I see a lot of teams doing it. You guys switch hard up and in.
Yes. Yeah. So, and that's the things, right? A lot of times the switching defense, a lot of times people will view that as an easy way out. But that's not what we wanted to do. Our terms we use was we switch as a weapon. So we switched to take away threes. We switched to force turnovers. And just the physicality part of it was huge. Now, in an NBA game, you can understand, and you got to adjust to the official. I mean, at any level, really, you got to adjust to the way the officials are calling the game. But you've heard it over and over again. The more physical team tends to get, the benefit of the doubt as the game progresses, right? So if you come out there and you're super physical, oftentimes the officials will kind of adjust to you as well. And so we were emphasized being very physical, up and into guys. And as I said, to take away threes first and foremost, because of the way the game is especially being played. And obviously it's very personnel driven as well, right?
Of course.
You know who guys, especially in the NBA, guys that are going to shoot, who's not going to shoot, who's going to pass, force a guy to make a play off the dribble. I mean, it's at every level really, but it's basketball. So, it's sometimes, when Chris was involved in ball screens, there were times, or if Trevor was involved or if PJ was involved, we'd want to keep a particular matchup. And sometimes, we would try to stay with our own, but for the most part, we switched and we're up and into guys. So yeah, we were a very aggressive team defensively.
Well, that's a great pull back of the curtain there on what an NBA team looks like. And, I certainly encourage our coaches on this call, get on YouTube, look up some of those older Houston teams from back when Mitch was in there and have a look at that, because I think it's good to sort of get a bit more visual on it too.
I'll be honest with you. I've got, if anybody wants to email me or whatever, I've got kind of a defensive teaching tape with a lot of that stuff on it.
Oh, fantastic.
That if somebody wants to take a look at it, I'd be happy to send it.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely get, like I said, we'll definitely get out people's details so they can get in touch with our speakers today. That's awesome, man. Looking now, I guess, going now forward a little bit now to your time at Stephen F. Austin, and obviously you're an assistant coach there. What was your sort of role there, sort of, I guess, on the practice floor and then on a game day with the guys?
Yeah. So kind of my role there, I was more with the guards. Oftentimes, so totally different environment from the NBA. College, way more practice time. So it was an adjustment for me from that standpoint. But, we would have 2, 3, 4 hour practices. And oftentimes it starts off with, your basic warm-up drills, all that kind of stuff, into position, so I was with the guards a lot. Very position oriented. We'd go through some different things, either offensively or defensively that we wanted to work on ourselves, or if we were focused on certain actions again that another team may run, we may hit some of that and some of the position breakdown. And then from there, we would build up into the full 5-on-5 and do tons of different drills: transition, rebounding, focus defensively, focus offensively. And my role during that, it depended on if I had the scout or not, but my role was, very much, it changed from day to day, to be honest with you. Like, coach may emphasize, hey, focus on being on the midline this day. Anybody that's on the midline, let's get after them. Or you focus on the guards running to the corner today. Make sure they sprint all the way to the corner. So, as a coach, you're obviously trying to watch a little bit of everything, but some days more focus on certain areas that coach may be looking for. And then, like I said, depend on your scout. So if I had the scout, we would get into a breakdown where you would go through 4 or 5 plays and go full speed with it. So you'd walk the team through it, and they pick it up, and then you run the action. And we would guard that literally until we pretty much had perfects just about every time. At Stephen F. Austin, we were another tremendous defensive team. My 2 years there, the first year we were there, we were number 1 in the country in forced turnovers out of 350 something, NCAA Division I teams.
Wow.
The second year I was there, I think we were 8th, I believe 6th or 8th. So top 10 for both seasons in forced turnovers. And again, we played a very unique style of defense there. We were very, very much in the passing lanes, full on denial, even in the post, full on denial, and which when I first got there was kind of unique because I'm like, just throw it over the top. But tremendous ball pressure, takes that away. And it was, again, a very good defensive team that we were a part of. Is why we had so much success there. And then on game days, if I had the scout, you'd go through everything. You go through offense, you go through their defense, you go through personnel, and you look for, just about everything. It's the full thing, which I love to do that. I had a ton of the experience with that in Houston, but now the added layer of, all right, offensively, how are we going to attack their defense, which was a new thing for me to get my hands on there at SFA. So.
For you spoke about before about warming up the guards and getting them going at practice. What's some warm up stuff that you would do with the guards there when they walk into practice? They just pulled their shorts up. How do you get them going?
A lot of times, and we practice in the morning too. So to be honest with you, I tried to get them there. Hey, let's get on the floor 45 minutes. Let's get on the floor 30 minutes before. And I would try to take 2 or 3 guys. Now you can't. Obviously, it wasn't mandated, but I try to get 2 or 3 guys in kind of different groups, right? And oftentimes I always do ball handling, 2 or 3 minutes just to get them warm, get them loose, get a feel for the ball. 2 or 3 minutes of ball handling, and then from there, it depends on the time of the year. During the season, I focused mostly on shooting during the season, just because, again, we'd have 3 or 4 hour practices plus the games. Like, guys' legs were gone. So, during the season, I would do a lot of stuff shooting off the move, a lot of catch and shoot, a lot of competition shooting, just to make sure they got tons and tons of reps of that. Because we didn't necessarily get a ton of shooting in during practice. And sometimes, like if a guy didn't come in before, I'd pull him aside right after practice and we do the same kind of thing. But, during the off season, it's a little bit different. Now, you can kind of get into a routine. So our kind of development from that scene, and that's exactly what it is. It's a little bit more development focused in the off season. So I'd have days where I do ball handling every day, but I'd have days where it'd be a ball screen day. I'd have a day where it'd be tons and tons of finishes at the rim. Some of that's off the move, some of that's off the bounce, different positions on the floor where you may catch it, rip and go. Working on footwork and all of that. And then, shooting off the move days. And then Fridays, typically, I always just do tons and tons of catch and shoot stuff. It just kind of, I varied it up every, it's funny because I have an idea and thoughts and kind of a game plan going into the practice or the player development part of it. But I oftentimes, I would kind of freestyle it a little bit here and there, working on different types of finishes and different types of moves off the catch. It may vary it up in ball screens and how, I'd get the managers out there and myself out there. How are we guarding it this time? Are we hedging it? Are we switching it? Are we back in the paint? How are we guarding that type of stuff? And as you progress in that, you can start to do different reads, all that kind of stuff, getting downhill,
Yep.
3-on-4 versus the managers. You got an extra defender out there, but you should be better than them. How are you reading their defense? Are they coming to help? Are they staying home? And making those passes and then playing off penetration from there. So
there's nothing more disappointing when the managers start playing better than the guys on the floor.
correct.
There's nothing more disappointing than watching an assistant coach start draining threes on you. It hurts. It hurts. Coach, I'm mindful of your time this evening as well, so I'm going to jump straight into some questions. I had some guys throw some questions at us, and one of the questions was how do you get your players to buy into defense as they do into offense? How did you sort of, I guess, from the defensive side of things, what's your sort of mentality around that?
Yeah, and that's like probably 90% of it, right? Is getting guys to buy in and play hard.
Yeah.
But no, really, that's a huge part of it. I can't emphasize that enough, because there's all these different schemes that you can throw out there. At the end of the day, people are going to score, right? So what can you do to, just emphasize getting that important stop here, and both Houston and SFA, we, take away transition buckets, take away easy buckets at the rim, and defensive rebound. Those are kind of like the three main keys defensively that you have to take away some of those easy buckets, right? But getting guys to buy in, it's tremendous to have that one or two guys on your team that you may pull aside before the season starts. You may pull aside after practice as the season's going, and they're kind of your quarterback on defense. You get those one or two guys in a leadership position that buy in, and hopefully every single one of our coaches is blessed with one or two of those guys on a team, because you need those kind of guys that aren't necessarily focused on having the ball 100% of the time or getting a bucket here, right? Some guys are two-way players, but that's very rare. So having that main defensive guy, PJ Tucker in Houston was that guy for us. He may go the whole game and take two shots.
Yeah, you saw that in the NBA Finals. Yeah.
He's going to talk every single possession. He's going to quarterback you. He's going to lead you. And you got to have that guy that's bought in. And if they do it the right way and lead the right way, it's infectious. Everybody starts to buy in. And it's if you can have that guy and you get him to play hard, that's like over half the battle. Now at SFA, again, I referred to it a second ago. We may guard it for 20 minutes until we get it perfect. We are going to get it perfect.
You got the time. You got the time on the floor too. Yeah, which makes a difference.
Exactly. So if that's your emphasis, it's all about what you emphasize. If that's your emphasis, you don't give them a choice.
Yeah,
they have to guard.
They got to guard it.
But it's
looking at that sort of stuff, like from an individual point of view, Coach, like how much of, and I guess it's from a defensive side and then probably more so from an offensive side, but one of the questions here is like, how much of that work is individual 1-on-0, and this, I guess, more so from a skill point of view, but offensive skill, how much of that is 1-on-0 and how much of it is like 1-on-1? Let's use Stephen F. Austin as an example.
Yeah, so at SFA and the development side of things, that's where, again, I don't want the guys necessarily on the offensive side. I don't want them going battling 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3 every single day. They just get tired of it. They stop trying. And that's, to be honest with you, if you can get some coaches and managers that are at least a decent body on the floor, they're not, just playing dead out there. If you can get somebody that maybe played high school basketball or has a past in basketball, like, I played Division III. I ran out of talent, but I did play Division III. So and I've learned the game, so I'm at least a body out there. I'm older now, but I during the off season in that development period, I loved being on the floor with the guys because it gives. I call it. It's probably kind of corny, but I call it sweat equity, right?
Yeah.
And
sweat equity.
You can get out there and they build a level of respect for you. You obviously respect them because you're kind of in the trenches with them, so to speak. But you're trying to give them looks. You're trying to guard to the best of I'm guarding the best of my ability. My 100, a full 100% is maybe they're 75%, but, I'm giving them a look, at least a hand in the face, some physicality off the ball screen so they can get a feel for it. That's not every day, but I think, and as a coach, as you get older, you want to avoid injury and all that kind of stuff for yourself and for them. But you learn and you know how to be on the floor and how to use your body and get into them without hurting them or hurting yourself.
No, that's good.
And from time to time, maybe you would get them to play some 3-on-3. Like, I think 3-on-3 is tremendous. So maybe you have a 4-week period at SFA where we do off-season workouts, and that last week, all the stuff that we've been working on, playing off the catch, reading the defense versus us, footwork, catch and shoot, ball screens, all that stuff. Now it comes to play, put them in 3-on-3 situations, put them in a ball screen, put them in a wide pin down, put them in a post up. Now you can kind of work on that in 3-on-3 and get them to really learn how to play together and learn how to play basketball with just, 3-on-3 at the park. You're playing, you're hooping. So, that's kind of the progression that I tend to veer towards.
It. No, I've been pushing 3-on-3 a lot. Coach, I'm gonna wrap us up. I know I got a band next up, and Coach, I really appreciate you. Thank you once again for getting here on a Friday evening with us and jumping in. And I know we had some great questions there, and I'm sure people will have some more. If I got Bell, you got a question for us, mate?
No question, just a clap emo to say thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
No, I appreciate it. Well, Mitch, I got your email there, and I'll get that out to everybody post event. It's in the chat there as well, which is awesome. And that's a really, like I said, that's a really great insight to us. And so, thank you, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Absolutely. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much. At the end of the day, I just pretend I know basketball. So
no, I think that's what coaches are good at. We're good at rambling. I'm almost proficient at it. I would say that's what I'm paid to do here, is just ramble. So you're doing a great job.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for listening. My email's there. Feel free to reach out whenever. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks very much. All right.